Hi, I'm Khushboo Razdan, and this is Foreign Correspondents Talk Series 2024, an initiative by the Association of Foreign Press Correspondents USA, where we invite members of the foreign press community to talk about their work stories and experiences. And today, for the first time, I have someone from my country who covers my country, who reports about my diaspora and my community, Yoshita Singh, who's based in New York. Yoshita, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Khushboo, for having me on the show. It's lovely to see you virtually, and it's lovely to see you.
If you could just briefly introduce yourself, where do you work and what do you do?
Khushboo, I am the Chief United Nations and New York Correspondent for Press Trust of India, PTI. PTI is India's largest newswire. It's India's oldest newswire. It was formed in 1949, so really 2 years after India's independence. And PTI disseminates news to hundreds of subscribers, which includes TV channels, newspapers, magazines, government departments, non-governmental departments, and various other clients. So it's India's largest newswire, like I said, and we have correspondents, hundreds of correspondents spread across the length and breadth of the country, covering every single town, village, city, and getting news from the country to our subscribers who are these Indian newspapers and channels, and it's also online. We also have foreign correspondents spread across the globe in major capitals of the world. For instance, I'm here in Washington, D.C., in London. So really covering all aspects of news from all corners of the world. And the benchmark for PTI and a cornerstone for PTI has been accurate, fact-based, credible news. So we have to ensure, and I think it's entrenched in the DNA also now of the organization, that the news that PTI puts across to its hundreds of subscribers, which are then passed on to millions of viewers and readers, the news has to be accurate, it has to be factually correct, it has to be credible news. So, and that's what people know PTI for. The news that the news that goes on PTI wires will be accurate and credible. So that's our job, and yeah.
It was my dream to work with PTI when I was a journalism student, like a long time back, because such a big name, such a prestigious, the faith that people have in PTI. Tell me something. How long have you been with PTI, and why did you try? Why did you think about pursuing a career in journalism? And how did it come up?
Right. So I've been with PTI for a long time. I joined PTI in Delhi as a trainee in 2006, January of 2006. I clearly remember that day coming from Lucknow, my hometown. When I got into PTI, there was an entrance exam, an all India entrance exam, a written exam, and I topped the exam. So that's how then I moved to PTI in Delhi as a trainee. I had a business background in my education. I had done a bachelor's in commerce, and then I did my master's in English. So because of that, I was in the business bureau in Delhi in PTI. So I covered the commerce ministry, the finance ministry, trade, business. So that was my focus. And I'd always wanted to be a journalist. The written word always inspired me. I was very fond. I was in the editorial board of my school magazine. So when I look back at my journey, I think the gene or the seed was sort of planted there. My father is also a journalist in Lucknow, so I think the genetics played a little role. Growing up, seeing the way he handled his profession, and the power and the impact that he could make through his writing and his work. So yes, I worked for Times of India in Lucknow for 2 years while I was doing my master's, and then I got through PTI, came to Delhi 2006 to 2008. I was in the Delhi headquarters covering the commerce ministry and the finance, and it was obviously a great experience, learning experience. No matter how much you learn in journalism schools, actual journalism is taught to you on the ground when you're actually on the field reporting, because it's so different. One day is different from the other, and you really have to adapt yourself to the circumstances, to the situation. And now from 2006 to 2024, it's been really a long journey of journalism, and I still continue to learn every day. Every day brings new challenges and new opportunities to learn and improve myself in my work.
So when did you decide to move to the US? Was it a personal decision, or you thought like, no, I want to cover my community and my country abroad?
So it was a personal move, Khushboo. I got married in 2008, and then I moved to Chicago in December of 2008. But I was very keen, and I was very sure that I still wanted to continue working when I moved to the US. We've heard stories of people getting married, girls getting married, moving to the US, and they're not able to work because of the visa restrictions that they face. If they're on H4 visas, they're not able to work. So I was very, very adamant, I would say, that I really wanted to continue working. And then PTI transferred, posted me in Chicago, in the sense I came on the I visa, which is the foreign journalist visa. So that ways I could continue working for PTI or continue working in the US. So, when I came to Chicago in December of 2008, and in 2009, David Headley, who was the main accused in the Mumbai terrorism attacks of 26/11, and his accomplice, the Tahawoor Rana, they were caught and arrested in Chicago. So, it was like I was there, and the PTI had a correspondent in Chicago, and it was a very, very important assignment for me. Who would have thought? I mean, you can't predict all these things, what happens where, but for me to be personally present in Chicago when such an important case that had such an important, consequences and also of interest in India, a person who had recce spots in India, and then transferred the information back to his handlers in Pakistan. So he was caught in Chicago, and his court case, his trial was happening in the Chicago court. So I got to cover that. And again, like I said at the beginning, every day is a new day in journalism. I was in the business bureau. I had a business background. I had not covered legal matters, but then here I was covering this court case. It was a very different experience for me, but and I'm so grateful for this opportunity, for the experience, because then I was covering this. It had you had to get your legal sort of knowledge on hand. You had to read a lot. I spoke to a lot of people who were covering the case, the nuances that were involved in it, the implications in the US and the attention in India. So that again was a great opportunity for me to learn something and to write about something I hadn't covered before. But it was, I think, one of the highlights of my career to be able to cover that court case. And then I moved to Boston in 2010. 2010, I was in Boston, where I did pursue, my journalism sort of studies. I did a digital journalism course at Harvard University. Digital journalism was sort of very, very new at that point of time. I mean, nobody knew the explosion that it would cause. So it was a new aspect of journalism that I really wanted to pursue. So I did a digital journalism course from Harvard University while I was in Boston. Again, also at that same time, I was also writing about the student community in Boston. I mean, there's so many Indian students who come to the Cambridge area, to US to study. And of course, Cambridge, the Boston area is a hub for Indian students. The faculty there were Indian. So again, that gave me an opportunity to write about Indian students, the Indian faculty, their journeys, their thoughts, and their dreams. And it was in 2011, August, that I was posted in New York as the UN correspondent and the New York correspondent for PTI. And I've been here since then. So that's been the journey.
You moved to New York, and you said that you also covered the students community, and New York also has a huge Indian community. What are some of the misconceptions that about India and Indians that you have come across during this long journey of covering the Indian community in India, abroad, in the US?
Right. I've been in the US. I've worked in the US longer than I've worked in India, and beginning from 2008, when I started my journey in Chicago, or the US journey in Chicago, then Boston, and then New York. I mean, until now, 2024, there's been a sea change in the way the perceptions about India and Indians has changed, not just for people, but also for people in the US. It's been a sea change. Initially it was Indians coming on H-1B visas, jobs, green cards. I mean, that's been a journey so far, yes. But but now we see the concrete contributions, that that Indians in the Indian American diaspora is making in the US fabric, in the US communities. Students who joined 10, 15 years are now in managerial positions, or students who joined some decades back are now CEOs of those companies. And so I think there's been this whole perception change of Indians not just coming as students, and we've seen, we have these conversations of how people here feel that, oh, the Indians are coming, they're going to take away our jobs. They're coming on H-1B visas. They're coming in large numbers, taking away American jobs. But we've clearly seen that that's not been the case. The Indians are contributing in the American society, whether it's through their taxes, whether it's through setting up their own companies, their own startups. And during this time, we've seen this whole startup culture boom in the US. So we've seen how Indians are really contributing and giving back to the American society, plus also contributing and giving back to their homes in India. And we see in leadership positions, I mean, there are so many Indians who are now in leadership positions. Microsoft Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, Ajay Banga. These names, I mean, there used to be one name, one and far between, but now I've also experienced that in my reporting. I used to report, okay, this person has been made the CEO of this company, or in Harvard Business School, there's a dean, Nitin Nohria, I reported about that as well. So, but now it's like we see all these Indian Americans taking up top positions in global companies and really spearheading these companies, taking them to greater heights. In US politics, Kamala Harris, a woman who has Indian descent, her mother is Indian, so at the vice president position. So the graph is really there for all to see, from where Indians were and to now, just the immense contribution they are making to every fabric of American society.
That's wonderful. Do you think that, the fact that the US has, an Indian American vice president, a woman, also changes the way Indian community also feels comfortable in the US, given, after 9/11, brown people had to go through a lot of racism as well, but that has changed over the years.
Yes, I mean, racism, there was, and, in day-to-day lives, people do face it. But I think, again, the more we see, and in the end, I think it's the individual also. It's how they are contributing to their, to their fields and to their respective professions. And I think when you come from India, you have this cultural upbringing. You have this a culture of community. You have this culture of taking people together, working together in a group, not in isolated sort of, islands, but this whole culture of community, of helping each other, of working together. And that's inherent in us. And I think that's what also that then, kind of translates into what people bring to the table. We've seen, for instance, in the Sikh community, the concept of langar, the concept of community kitchens. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, that's something that was so out there. People were struggling to have food, or people were struggling to have shelters. But we saw these Sikh communities, these gurdwaras, open their doors. I mean, the doors are already open, but really open their doors and welcome everybody to community kitchens to ensure that they had a meal to eat, which is again a very powerful sentiment. And the work of the Indian American doctor community during the pandemic, it's just highlighted. There's so many doctors of Indian origin, Indian diaspora in the US, and the way they helped communities here, the way they helped communities back in India, sending medical supplies, oxygen containers and cylinders, and other essential medical supplies and equipment. So, the work that they do professionally is there, but it's also this aspect of community and helping each other in difficult situations. That's also then was there for all to see in a situation like the COVID-19 pandemic, which nobody had thought, but then so.
Since you cover US-India relations also, Prime Minister Modi came to Washington, D.C. in 2022. Now he's, the third time he's won the election, and he's now again the Prime Minister of our country. Is he coming to US anytime soon? Are we going to see him anytime soon? Everybody here wants to see him.
Yes. So yes, he was here last year. In fact, Khushboo, he was here last year, exact to the date, June 21st. It is the International Day of Yoga, and Prime Minister Modi was in the United Nations headquarters. Seriously, at the exact same time, I would say, doing yoga in the north lawn of the UN headquarters. It was in 2014 when he addressed the UN General Assembly from the UN General Assembly podium. He proposed this idea of commemorating an International Yoga Day annually, and the first Yoga Day was held in 2015, and then to have the Prime Minister in the UN 9 years after he had proposed this Yoga Day. So it was a very significant moment for the diaspora and for India. So yes, he was here last year, and then he had the state visit as well. After New York, he went to DC for the state visit at the invitation of President Joe Biden. So let's see, there's a possibility, there's a chance maybe that he could, again, I'm not, I don't want to speculate, but maybe in September for the UN General Assembly, we might see him here, because it's a significant year. Also, we are having the Summit of the Future. It's a very high-level, ambitious summit agenda that the UN Secretary General will be hosting. And of course, there are so many issues on the table now: climate change, AI, digital technology, and where the world goes from now to the next 15, 20 years. We all talk about the SDGs that have to be completed by 2030. So the Summit of the Future is the roadmap beyond that. So it's a crucial time, and we'll see. We hope that the Prime Minister makes it to the General Assembly this September.
And we will look forward to your reporting, at that time. As you said, it's very important, high-level event. My last question to you, you have been a journalist for almost more than a decade now. You have been in the US for so long. What is your advice for aspiring journalists, especially, people who come from India, like myself as well, and they want to cover their country, their community from the US? What would be your advice?
Sure. So, I think the advice would be from a personal point of view. I think you have to keep learning on the job. You can't come with set mindset that, okay, if I'm going to the US or if I'm covering certain things in India, anywhere, I think you can't have a set mindset that this is how it works, this is how it doesn't work. And you have to be sensitive to the cultural nuances, to the sensitivities of the job. You have to keep learning on the job, keep improving on the job. Another thing I think, which now, as any journalist covering any any reporting, is that the infiltration of misinformation and disinformation, AI generated videos and audios that are being used, that we see in elections or in otherwise. So as a journalist, it is really our responsibility to ensure that the news that we put out, the articles that we put out, are factual. They are free from misinformation, disinformation, and we have to make an extra effort now, I think, to ensure that what we give to our readers and our viewers is credible news information. Because with the advent of social media, again, from 2008 when I started in the US, or in 2006 when I started my journey as a journalist till now, I mean, social media was not there in 2006 and 8, but now with social media, it's everywhere. Everybody has access to it. Anybody can make up videos and upload it on YouTubes and WhatsApps and Instagrams, and people believe what they see. So and if you have a WhatsApp forward, they'll believe what they read. But we have to ensure that our coverage is unbiased. Our coverage is free from, like I said, misinformation, and also to give the reader, context, and ensure that what they're getting is really a whole picture, not a one-sided or an unbiased view. So I think that is something, and you have to be sensitive to the culture of, where you're reporting. I mean, reporting in India is different from reporting in the US. Reporting UN is different because there's so many other stakeholders involved. So just be sensitive also, and empathetic also, but also ensure that what you put out is factual and credible, and you're not contributing to the already misinformation, disinformation, tsunami that's there.
Thank you so much, Yoshita. And it was such a pleasure having you. I just want to say on a personal note that I am so proud that you are representing my country in New York. Thank you so much for the important work that you're doing, the contribution that you're making. What a wonderful journey that you've had as a journalist, and I wish you all the best in your future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Khushboo. And again, it's lovely to see, a fellow women Indian journalist, because, we've been few and far between, but then I think our tribe needs to grow, and we need to continue working and showcasing again, that women, whether it's in India or US, we are hardworking people, and we can continue to keep the flag flying high of India and US and of ourselves as well. So thank you so much, and all the best to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.